Hello, my name is Jared Larson, and I am going to be talking with you guys about my spiritual autobiography today. I'm a very visual learner and like to use imagery and pictures and photographs and stuff. So I actually made right here a kind of picture collage type thing. I'll be going through all these pictures individually and kind of sharing about how they have impacted my spiritual journey. So the first picture I'm going to be talking about is this picture right here. It was my old church. It looks like it's backwards, so I'm sorry about that. All these pictures will probably be backwards, but it was called Yankton Baptist Church, and that's the church that I grew up in. I grew up in St. Helens, Oregon. It's a really small, white, middle-class town, and so being exposed to that and being where I am now, I obviously grew a lot just with cultural understanding and kind of who I want to be today. So I'm going to just start by saying that, yeah, that's the church that I grew up in. I was only there for a few years, and then the church did a split, and then I ended up going to a church for a while called Grace Baptist Church, which is that picture right there, and that's little me, and I put that in there because I think that was about the age when I accepted Jesus in my heart, and that was at Grace Baptist Church. So I was about 5 when I accepted Christ into my heart. I grew up going to the church, like I said, and my family decided to go to that church because of the split. And that was a big deal because it meant leaving relationships and different things that my parents had. And they had to come to their own grips. I don't really remember it because I was pretty small. But I know that it was kind of a big deal for them. And then when I was about 8, so I think that was probably younger than 8 years old, but I thought I would throw in another picture of me in there so you can see me when I was little. I decided to become baptized. So I went out to the Columbia River, and I got baptized out there from who would be my future youth pastor, who had a big impact on my life. So yeah, a couple other people. I'm going to be talking a lot about this picture right here, which I'll get to in a minute. But other people, big influences in my life, especially with my spiritual journey. This is my mom and I at Disneyland. I'm obsessed with Disneyland, and I'll be talking about that a little bit more later. That's my grandma and I at my graduation from George Fox. And then this is my dad, grandma again, and my sister. That's my mom's mom. And yeah, like I said, my sister. So those people all had really big impacts on my spiritual journey. I remember always going over to my grandma's house growing up, and she was just really intentional with us about praying for us and asking us about our spiritual journeys and what we were like learning in church and different things. And that was always really helpful for me. Yeah. So she still is like that today. It's really awesome. My mom has also been a huge support, not only spiritually, but emotionally as well. And then you saw that picture of my sister and my dad. So going into like the meat and bones of things of when my spiritual journey kind of started taking a different toll. So that picture, as you can see, is somebody handcuffed to alcohol. So my dad was an alcoholic. He passed away from cancer in 2010, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. But he started drinking again after being sober for 20 years when I was in the 6th grade. And that is when my spiritual journey kind of did a complete 180. I had a really difficult time with it. I hadn't grown up with substance abuse disorders that I was aware of. I knew my uncle, my mom's brother, was a recovering drug addict, but this was something totally new for me and shook my world around and made me question God a lot. I remember in middle school going to youth group a lot and praying and asking God, to help him, help our family, and that sort of stuff. And my prayers were never answered. And I started to not believe in God as much anymore. I was like, you're not helping me out. You're not just being, my probably a typical selfish teenager mindset. It was just really hard. He was emotionally abusive, and that was really hard to hear that stuff, especially as a teenager when you're already dealing with a lot of pressures and different things like that. And so it made me really question, is there a God? Why would God do this to me? And so, like I was saying, I went to youth group a lot, and that's another picture because my youth group did have a huge impact on me. That's my youth pastor right there. His name was Dave, and he was awesome. I'm back up there, and then these are all some friends from youth group. But I went to Dave a lot about just my walk with God, and kind of he knew where I was at with things, and he helped me get through quite a bit of stuff. My freshman year of high school, my dad got diagnosed with stage 4 esophagus cancer, and that was something that was unexpected again, and I was totally not prepared for. It was really hard for my family. My mom, going back kind of to my mom again, she was working 3 jobs. She was working as a duty aide. She was house cleaning, and she was also working at Walgreens. And that, to me, showed me what type of person she was. She was dedicated to us and the family, and that was really cool. And I still was kind of struggling to understand, once again, why God was making our family go through even something more than we were already dealing with. And if at any point during this video, if you have questions for me, I'm really an open book. I am totally fine, answering anything, any questions you can talk to me about later in class or whatever. But anyway, so before my dad had passed away, I had a dream that I was actually going to find my dad dead. And that was pretty intense. And I remember going home on the day that it happened, which was July 24th, 2010. And there was just kind of an eerie feeling. I walked in and I happened to, find him. And that was really hard, very traumatizing. And I remember calling up my youth pastor and having him come over and kind of telling him about it. And he explained to me that he felt like that was kind of God's way of preparing me for something like that to happen. And he was there with me, listening to me the whole time. And you can believe whatever you want. You can believe it if you think that was true or not. But for me, in my own spiritual journey, that was the moment where I was like, yeah, actually, I can totally see how he was shaping me and molding me and putting me in a place where he would want me to be at that time, and knowing that I could handle that sort of situation, and figuring out that this is, something that I could help people with when I'm older, I can relate to people with when I'm older. And that was kind of my mindset back before my senior year of high school. So from then on, I was like, you know what? I want to go into counseling. I want to help people. I want to be there for people. I want to give people hope. I want to inspire people. I want to encourage people. I want people to get inspired. I want people to get encouraged. I want people to see that there is hope. And moving forward, my senior year, I ended up switching churches. My youth pastor ended up taking a full-time position as a summertime youth camp, which I'll talk about in a minute. So I went to a Foursquare church, which was completely different, very Pentecostal, raising hands and different things, which is not what I was used to. This person right here, he's probably my biggest role model. This was my high school counselor, and he's the one that had the biggest impact on my life and why I wanted to go into school counseling. And currently I am at Newburgh Christian Church, and have fallen in love with the community there, the openness, the welcoming environment, the accepting of cultures and people and all of that good stuff. And that's kind of what I grew up with, and that's kind of how my family raised me. And so I've really come to realize that's where I need to be, is kind of in a church environment that is like that. Along the lines of kind of my spiritual journey, like I said, my youth pastor took a full-time position as a youth director, and he ran a school camp program called Pacific Camps, and I was a part of that for a few years, actually a long time, from my freshman year until this last year, and he recently just took a full-time position at a different church, and I'm really excited for him for that. Along the way, I became known at George Fox. That's where I decided to go to school, and I grew more in Christ there as well. I was an RA. I took many classes that kind of broadened my perspective of growing up in a Baptist church and kind of their beliefs, but kind of understanding different denominations of Christianity, and it really helped strengthen my faith, I feel like, today. Those are two of my roommates, and they were really impactful in my life and my walk as well. And I'll be getting back to this picture in a minute, to Disneyland. But as far as the acerbic competencies, I definitely can relate to number 3 and 4, just self-exploration of religious and spiritual beliefs in order to increase sensitivity, understanding, and acceptance of diverse belief systems. Through the walk and being a current school counselor, you hear a lot of different belief systems, and just like understanding them and knowing them, and, doing what Christ would want us to do, which is love people, just growing up like that with kind of the way that I was raised. And then describing my own religious and spiritual belief system, and explain various models of religious or spiritual development across my lifespan. I'm very comfortable and open with that. I'm also sensitive and receptive of religious and or spiritual themes in the counseling process, as expressed by the preference of the client. Like I said, working in a school, I cannot ask students about their own spiritual walks, but they, if they want to ask me or tell me about kind of their own spiritual walk or whatever is going on, I can listen to them and empathize with them, and that has definitely happened. Identifying my limits of my own understanding of my religious spiritual expression, and demonstrate appropriate referral skills when I need to. I definitely would feel comfortable with that. I'm not afraid to refer students if I feel like they need sort of outside counseling. I feel pretty good under the spiritual competencies. Definitely still working on understanding a variety of different religions. I know a few, but I know that there's a lot more, and being more aware of that will definitely help me in understanding other beliefs. And I'm sure there will be students where they'll come in and they'll be like, I'm this. And I'm like, I have no idea what that is, but I'm not going to say that to you. So yeah. So just working on that, I feel like our spiritual autobiographies are just a constant work in progress. And so that's where it leads me to this last picture. Like I said, this is me getting a Disney annual pass. And some of you may think that I'm crazy because I live in Oregon. Yes, I know, I've heard the whole thing. You can judge me, but I love Disneyland. And one of my friends recently shared this quote with me, and it really resonated with me, and it's really pushed me in my own spiritual walk to be more like this. And it says, what if God designed us to live our whole life like we do when we're in Disneyland? Full, wide-eyed, fearless, joy-filled, exploring, conquering, patient, laughing, shameless, in community, and squeezing his hand tightly through the ups and downs. That really resonated with me. It just made me realize of the relationship that I can have with God, and that he's there with me at all times. And even when I'm impatient, he's there. Even when I, am full of fear, he is there. And just remembering that I need to hold on to his hand and be like I'm at Disneyland, where I am fearless, where I am full with a joy-filled spirit, all of that kind of stuff. So my encouragement and my hope and desire for you is that you can, wherever you're at in your spiritual journey, that you are able to find that thing that fills you up, and you can hold on to their hand and rely on them through the ups and downs. So thank you for listening, and I hope that you enjoyed.